Hello and welcome to the first video that I'm uploading on my new channel called TB Fire Podcast. This is going to be, as the name says, a podcast channel. I will be live most of the times, and the goal is to have a Discord so people can call in and talk, because I do listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and it's very much a conversation either between the people there or just even a solo person, which is fine. I listen to them, I like them, but I want to have the conversation extend. I want to have more of a conversation, something more along the lines of what David Jaffe does, but without being such a big asshole, basically. Right? I'm not going to cut you off unless you're saying some stupid stuff. And not just because, hey, you're boring me, right? Everybody's going to have a certain amount of time, and if you run over, then you held my interest. If not, hey, you hit the time, sorry, you got to go. But all that's coming in the future, branding, different things like that, all that's coming in the future, schedules, all that's coming. But today, this podcast is about Sony. So everybody knows what's going on with the Activision deal, Microsoft deal, sorry. But a lot of people have been asking the question, what should Sony do in response? Because personally, I think the deal is going to go through. Personally, and that's okay. That's more than okay. That's business. That's what happens. But Sony can't just keep letting Xbox buy top 10 publishers, right? They got Bethesda. Now they will have Activision, I believe. So, what is the next best studio for Xbox? For Sony to purchase. So that's why I have these tabs already. And obviously the two front runners in my eyes are going to be EA and Take-Two. So let's just look at the studios that EA has under their belt. Obviously they have some really popular studios for gamers, right? For hardcore gamers. But you start to get down here, and I've never heard of many of these studios, but hey, that's because I might not be in those circles. Some of these might be mobile as well. So I've heard of EA Motive, Metalhead, never. Maxis, never. All these others, EA Orlando. See, some of these, here's the problem. Some of these studios have to be like support studios, because I've never heard of EA Orlando making a game. Never heard of EA Redwood making a game. So some of these have to be support studios. But they do list all of these on their official website, EA.com. And that's 24 studios. When you go to Take-Two, this is all of Take-Two's studios. So this is 15 studios last time I counted. Pretty spread out, but again, what do these companies actually make? For instance, I'm personally a fan of the Top Spin franchise, and you know, didn't go so well. Not going to get into that, but again, most of these studios, like when you think of the EA, okay, when you think of a Rockstar game, you just think it comes from Rockstar. Are all of these studios helping to build that damn game? If so, you know, what are you really getting, right? How big are these studios? Just for comparison's sake, this is Activision's studios worldwide, okay? They have, technically it's about 33, but Capture Studios, Quality, Publishing, I'm not counting those, but I will count the rest of them. That's 30 studios. Again, some of these I've never heard of. Some of these, again, have to be support studios. Like Sledgehammer. I didn't even realize Sledgehammer Games had so many damn studios. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's 30 studios. So if Xbox gets them, yes, they get Call of Duty and Diablo and Overwatch, but they get a bunch of manpower. Right? Nobody's talking about that. Right? Let's just look at it at the base level. What does Xbox want? They need games. And not bad games, they need good games. How do they get that? Manpower. So when everybody's so focused on Call of Duty, I look at it and say, well, if they get all these studios, if each one can make a game, or even, hell, they got 30 of them. If 2 of them can make a game cooperatively, right? They really could have a game release every quarter, or 2 or 3 games release every quarter, right? And some of these might be bigger, smaller, whatever. I don't really care. It's not here or there. It's a conversation. They're going to have the manpower to actually do what they want, which is to put a game out, right? All these studios might not have to make Call of Duty. Some of these studios, for instance, Ravensoft, right? Infinity Ward. They, like Sledgehammer, has all these other studios. This is the only one that I see for Ravensoft and Infinity Ward. So, and when they make Call of Duty, yeah, they all kind of pitch in to help a little bit, whatever. But it's mostly the studios, right? So that's not. So what's stopping everybody else from making their own games? And the answer is it's not really that much. So to me, that's the play that Microsoft is going for. It's not Call of Duty. It wasn't too long ago that Call of Duty was on the downward spiral. Sales are declining. This one didn't launch as big as the last one. Player counts declining because of Apex and all these other different games. So, it has come back in a big way. Mobile is doing what it does. DMC, they're making money. They're back in a big way. But that studio, Activision itself, not Blizzard. Activision is very much just Call of Duty, right? Blizzard has a bunch of franchises, but they keep messing up, right? They finally got a win with Diablo. Overwatch might still be popular, but it is sort of pissing people off. Every time you hear about Overwatch, is people getting pissed off. So they do have franchises that people love, but does anybody really care? Those games are going to be where they're going to be regardless, right? Those are PC games for the most part, except for something like maybe Diablo. I don't even know if Overwatch 2 is even on PS5 or Xbox. I don't know. I've never seen it. So when you think about Microsoft getting Activision, the play is going to be for manpower, right? So when you think about Sony, who can give them the best manpower? Well, when you look at EA, they have 24 studios, which is quite a bit more than Take-Two. And these are actually some reputable studios: BioWare, Codemasters, DICE, EA Motive. Like these are Respawn. These are actually like, they make games that the hardcore gamer wants, right? So you would think, well, that is great. That's great. They make games that we want. They should buy EA. Here's the problem with EA. They have the same problem that Sony has. Let me explain. When MLB came to Sony and said, hey, our game is exclusive to your platform. We want more money. So you can either put the game on other platforms or give up the license. Sony said, well, we're not going to put it on other platforms. So MLB finds somebody else to publish it, and Sony keeps making the game, right? They get the money. So EA has the same problem. They are very much sports heavy, which, don't get me wrong, somebody had to be the sports publisher, right? Somebody had to take that role. EA does it. So if they purchased EA, Madden, FIFA, none of these games are going to be exclusive, right? They generate money, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to be exclusive. Some might say they're too big to be exclusive, but regardless, they're not going to be exclusive. Apex is never going to be exclusive, and so it's going to be everywhere. So any other games that they come out with, that's going to be what's the word? What's that? Not free to play, but games as a service is going to be everywhere. And then when you start looking at the other properties, you go, well, it's kind of like Activision. What games do they really have? We're so used to Nintendo and Sony, who built up their first-party catalog to this point where their games are notable and reputable. When you look at Activision, you go, well, they could make this game, but how would that work in today's market? How would that work with today's gamers? Same thing for Activision. They brought Mirror's Edge back. Didn't really hit like they wanted to. They have Dead Space back. Didn't really hit like they wanted it to. So, what are you actually getting by purchasing EA? You're getting manpower, right? So hopefully you can. It's like house flipping. You want to buy these studios, and this is what I think Xbox, Microsoft is doing, and this is what I think Sony should do. You buy. Let's say they did purchase EA. You have to flip these studios, build them up, so that they can make games, right? It doesn't matter if it's going into PlayStation Plus or Games Pass or Nintendo Online Store, whatever the hell you call it. It doesn't matter. You got to flip these studios to make games. And you have 24 studios who can possibly do that. Like Frostbite, I didn't know that was even a studio. I'm being honest. It's been so long, I didn't even realize that. I think they made a Battlefield game, I think. But yeah, they might make all the Battlefield games. EA, like all these publishers, it's so weird. They're all very, very top heavy, right? If you think about it, even Nintendo's very top heavy. They have their Pokemons, the Marios, the Zeldas, and maybe 2 or 3 more, but it's very much top heavy. And then you have Sony, who last generation Ghost of Tsushima sold, as well as Last of Us, which is an established franchise. That's a new IP, right? And you have Days Gone, new IP that also sold in the millions. So to me, they're not as top heavy as relying on the old faithfuls, but that's just my personal opinion. So when you look at Take-Two, okay, let's go back to EA. As I was saying, who Battlefield, not a good spot right now. Personally, when I log in, PlayStation or PC, the matches I get have bots in them. I'm just gonna throw it out there. And I keep saying the game's dead. I don't know. Maybe people on some DLC that I don't have. I don't know. People can keep screaming for Burnout. It's never gonna set the world on fire again. Dead Space just came out. It came and it went. Dragon Age is coming. People have high hopes for it. I'm personally just gonna wait till I can play. Damn it! What's the name of that other game with the Arisen? Whatever. I haven't played Dragon Age. I like some other games in that mode. I might, depending on how it feel about it, it might hit. Again, Madden, you stuck just like MLB. It's going to be everywhere. You don't really control it. And the rest of these, it's like, okay, for instance, Star Wars, Madden. If another company's name is on your game, you don't own it. And that's what I've been saying about Spider-Man. Everybody refers to it as Spider-Man, but if you ever see it published, if you ever see it in writing, it's Marvel's Spider-Man. Sony doesn't own it. It's licensed, right? So these are the biggest games, and it's like, well, where's there a place for them? Where's there a place for Titanfall right now? There isn't. Where's there a place for Skate? There isn't. But if you keep following along with what I said, if you purchase EA, yes, you can pull from this catalog and all the other catalogs of games. And this is from Gamerant. But that's not the play. The play is manpower to make new IP. Some of those studios will make, updates of these old games. But the play is for new IP. Because you can always keep these in the war chest. This is, when you think about it, Medal of Honor and Battlefield, that's pretty crazy that both of them basically are dead at this point. I'm sorry, Battlefield's dead. But that could be a play if Microsoft wanted to do something funny with Call of Duty, which to me it sounds like they are. And when you look at Rockstar, when you look at Take-Two, they're basically GTA and sports. Sorry to say it, but that's what it is. So again, much like with EA, you're in the same boat. All the 2Ks, all the sports 2Ks, you don't own them. And they can come in, just like Star Wars came in and told EA, hey, you guys are doing some shit with my IP, with my Battlefront. The fans are coming to us saying, hey, what the F? Change it. EA said, hey, we're going to change it. You don't own it. MLB came to MLB, Major League Baseball, and their player association. That's important to put on there too, because it's both of them. It's a co-op. They came to Sony and said, hey, put the game elsewhere. Sony said, okay, we're going to keep making our money because our game makes money for us, but we're not going to publish it. But guess what? If they owned it, like people keep thinking, MLB can't tell them what to do. Disney can't tell them what to do. NBA can't tell 2K what to do, but they don't own it. So you're in the same spot. What you do get is Grand Theft Auto. But here's the problem. It's too big. Grand Theft Auto is too big. It's like Call of Duty. It has to be everywhere. If you try to make it exclusive, you're going to lose revenue. But the most important part of that situation, of that equation, is Sony has a bigger install base by far than Xbox and Microsoft. Right? So you can still keep it on a PC and get those people. You can put it on PlayStation. So all you're losing is the 20 million Xbox people. Right? Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of people. But in terms of Sony, all this is just going to be added income, right? Do they really want to take that hit from not putting it on Xbox? I don't think so. At the end of the day, this is all profits, right? So in my eyes, Take-Two and EA are just not going to be good purchases. I don't think they're going to be good purchases. If they were to purchase one of them, I don't know who I would pick. I'm almost leaning towards EA. Now, hear me out. If they did purchase EA, and let's just say they developed their own basketball game, it wouldn't have the NBA license, so highly unlikely. But you would have MLB, which you don't own, but you make. Madden, the golf games. the college football game apparently is coming back. So you do get, you could be the sports bro console, right? You still got Call of Duty for the time remaining, and you get Madden, MLB, and you get these sports games. If you wanted to have that play to be we got the game, we got the RPGs, but also we do have the bro games. You can be that, you can have that duality. You can own it. In a way, you can say the same thing about the NBA, but it just, these IPs, you may be able to make something out of them still if you're Sony, with Sony's money and creative behind it. Take-Two IPs, I just don't know what. I just don't know. I didn't like Red Dead. I didn't like Red Dead 2. I just don't know what you can do with their IPs. But again, if the goal is to make new IPs, then guess what? If you go with EA, you get 24 studios. That's manpower. Okay? That's what you want. For better, for worse. That's what you want. Eventually, you're going to have to compete with all of this. Plus Bethesda. Plus Xbox owned studios, right? So, Sony has a choice to make. Now, here's the most important part. Well, I think they should buy Square Enix or Capcom. People forget. Let me remind you people. Let me remind everybody. A couple years ago, Capcom was in a bad spot. A couple years before that, Capcom was in a bad spot. Remember in the Xbox 360 era when all those Japanese companies was like, okay, Xbox 360 is going to be our way to get even more popular in the West. Well, and they made all those games, Lost Planet, all these other games that basically failed. And then that kind of hurt them a lot. Sony had to rebuild, some of them. Square, I'm looking at you. But they don't make enough games. What are you buying when you get Square? Final Fantasy, which is great. I love Final Fantasy 16. I love 15. I played 14. That's the biggest game. Obviously, 7 Remake is going to be the biggest game, but their biggest game is Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy sells about as good as a PlayStation exclusive. So what are you really getting? You get all these other small games. Here's the play for Square that I think Sony should buy it. It gives them a in route into the Switch. You can put all these little games. You can make miniature games like, let's say, Horizon. And if you wanted to make it look like not Roblox, but Minecraft, you can put that on the Switch and sell it, and it will look cool, quote unquote, for the Switch. And you can do that under the guise of Square Enix. What's stopping them from doing it now? I don't know. They probably just don't want to. I don't know. They don't like publishing games on other platforms. Who knows? But what are you really getting with Square? Your game's already like de facto exclusive. Your game's already basically exclusive anyway. They sell like 4-1 or 3-1, 2-1. It's crazy. So what are you really getting? That game might sell 1 million on Xbox, but it might sell 8 million on PlayStation. That's why they can go, we'll just pay you that little bit of chump change and just make it exclusive, and then we're going to get more sales anyway on PlayStation. That's why that works. Okay? Capcom. If anybody pays attention to the news, why is Capcom doing well? Resident Evil 1 remake. Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes. Everybody knows 5 and 6 were not as popular. 5, you might be able to get some people to come to it. Nobody likes 6 as a collective, as a gaming community. So what are you really getting? When Capcom, you getting Street Fighter? It's getting more and more irrelevant. I'm sorry, it's getting more and more irrelevant. So what are you getting if you buy Square or Capcom? To me, the only play is keeping it out of Microsoft's hands. That's or somebody else's hands. But you're not getting that much. It makes, to me, even though to me it doesn't make sense to buy EA or Take-Two, it makes more sense for Sony to buy them than it does to buy Capcom or Square. And some people say, well, maybe they should buy Sega. Again, you guys got to stop living in the past. It's about manpower. And if it's about manpower, I'm going to go with the 24 studios at EA who can possibly make at least under Sony's direction 12 games. 12 games. That's at least 12 games within 5 years. At least 12. Right? And again, these don't have to be big games. Other studios can make smaller games that they can put in plus day one. Right? That's always been a play. We'll put the smaller games in there, and then the big games, hold us over to the big games. We got Last of Us 3 coming out, and then we got this smaller game coming out to hold you over until the next Ghost of and that's the play. That's the play. But who knows what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. But to me, if they're going to buy somebody, I say just go ahead and purchase EA. Get that under your belt. It's not the best one, but it might be what you need. It might be what you need to compete. That's what I say. So here's another way of looking at things. EA, Activision, Take-Two, all these companies, to me, they're roughly the same. So what can make Sony differentiate themselves? I'll let you think about that. So what can make Sony differentiate themselves? Live service games. So then the question becomes, well, if Sony's so focused on live service games, why not just buy EA? Apex, very popular. There's some rumblings of Apex dying, but and that's until the next season comes out, right? GTA, live service game. But let's talk about live service games. Sony's taking a very big bet on live service games. I don't like this bet. Excuse me. I don't like this bet. Let me tell you why. Sony's got like what 10 or 12 live service games in the works. We're seeing one of them, and it was kind of like, okay, where's the gameplay? Of those 10, 1 or 2 may hit. 1 or 2. Everybody else is going to get shut down. Mark my words. Mark it down in your calendars. Haven, when that game flops, that studio's getting shut down. The other studios that they got, other guys that they purchased before the game even came out, once that game flops, it's getting shut down. There's no other way around it. Okay? So, what's the bet? The bet is, well, the bet is, they can have Activision, right? They can get Call of Duty because we're going to have at least 2 games that make as much or more as Call of Duty. That's Sony's bet. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's a risky gamble, and it puts them in a very bad position. Because if they hit, great, they're going to keep looking for it, even though it's really, really hard to make those type of games hit. How many games come out on PC like that all the time and don't hit? Sony thinks they're going to be different. Okay, but what does Sony do if none of them hit? They poured all this money into making these games hit. None of them hit. All that resources could have been going into your first party games. Your first party single player games with multiplayer. But you didn't do that. So now you have this position of, well, we're not the multiplayer people anymore. Right? Which they had before. And they built up the multiplayer. Right? The days of Killzone, the days of Uncharted, those days they're gone. In terms of now we want live service games. So here's the problem. When they don't hit, and you let Microsoft, we know what it really is from those leaks. It's really Phil Spencer who's head of Xbox and gaming. So we can say Microsoft all we want to. It's Xbox. We're gonna let Xbox and possibly somebody else come in by EA. We're gonna let somebody else come in by Take-Two. Where does that leave Sony? Oh, there's still a bunch of publishers out there. No. When you look at gaming revenue in terms of actual gaming companies, not Apple, you got the big boys. You got Sony's, the Tencents, NetEase, Microsoft, Nintendo's. You got the Bethesdas. Guess what? Microsoft is going to own 2 of the top 10. At least top 15. Microsoft's going to own them. And them themselves were already like top 5. Think about that. Right? The number 1 publisher normally is, it used to be Activision. But regardless, Microsoft's going to have all that under the belt. How does Sony make its money? It's not the first party. It's the third party games. They have the bigger install base, right? Ironically, in terms of when you look at the numbers, last time I looked, their first party numbers are kind of similar to the Switch. I know a lot of people don't like that because they go, well, Mario sells 50 million and I have not seen an Uncharted sell 50 million ever. But regardless of how you want to look at it, Sony's first party money-wise is equal to Nintendo's first party revenue-wise. You can look it up. At least the last numbers I've seen, right? The only thing that puts Sony over Microsoft and Nintendo is third party. So if they keep letting these third party companies come in and get purchased, where does that leave Sony? People keep saying, well, Microsoft is going to spin Sony out of business. Sony's complacency might put them out of business, right? This Bungie deal is complete trash. I literally don't understand why they paid so much for Bungie when you could have got an actual publisher, right? For a little bit more. And then not only that, the Bungie people are the council of gods that can say your service game is going to suck, cancel it. So Sony's betting on Bungie's not Destiny. They're betting on their next game, Marathon. What if Marathon doesn't hit? Who's going to be the audience for Marathon? Is it going to be the people who are playing Bungie, who are playing Destiny? So right now, there's a lot to take in with Sony right now. it's hard to imagine, but Sony could get boxed. Sony could get boxed out of gaming, right? They in a lot of ways, people already consider them the Nintendo, like the HD Nintendo, quote unquote, right? Because they rely heavily on their first party, and Xbox couldn't get their couldn't get their first party up for the longest time. So people already, quote unquote, rely on them as the first party, mostly, which is not true. I just discussed that. But if Sony can't get the third, if they're making everybody else money, is that what they want? Or do they want to make the money themselves? Do they want to have to keep paying that? Well, wait a second. Wait a second. If Sony still gets 30%, where's my background music? If Sony still gets 30%, maybe they don't care after all, because that is how they make most of their money, which is third party. Maybe they don't care who puts it on their platform, who publishes it, or whatever. Maybe they don't care. All right, I've been going for about 30 minutes. Like I said, this is going to be live next time. Next time I will get the Discord up and running so that people can call in and we can have conversations. Obviously, this is a brand new channel, so there's not going to be many people. So it's going to be me talking to myself for a very long time. That's okay. I'm going to be in for the long haul. But if you do want to join in on the conversation, please drop a comment below. Hit the like button if you want to. And hopefully subscribe. Tune in for the next one. Thank you.